The headline in The Australian today on page 1 summed up the week in politics. It screamed income tax war, and that's exactly what Australians now find themselves right in the middle of. You have to wonder, though, how many working Australians struggling to top up their Middle East war-ravaged petrol tanks grapple with a third straight interest rate rise on their home loans and pay for inflated supermarket prices, whether they pay much attention to what Canberra's actually doing to them. A mood of shoulder shrugging. What can we actually do about increasing taxes and decreasing services anyway? And it's this that's driving voters in ever-increasing numbers, I believe, into the arms of One Nation. Now, a Morgan poll came out overnight. Now, this was conducted over the phone, and it was done after Tuesday night's budget attack on negative gearing and capital gains tax changes. It has One Nation polling higher than even the Labor Party. Now, you have to read into the numbers instant anger. There's no other excuse. There's no federal election for just under 2 years, and there's plenty can change. But with Pauline Hanson's party polling a primary number of 32% to Labor's 28.5%, it's no longer a question of who are really the opposition. It's One Nation. I mean, the coalition primary in that same poll, two-party preferred, they were on 45% to One Nation's 49%. And when asked about the job Anthony Albanese was doing, 59% of people said they're not happy, and who would be? This poll came before last night's budget reply speech by the opposition leader Angus, which I suspect was watched by hardly anyone who's not politically engaged. Taylor's attack lines were slick and well rehearsed, but as the Prime Minister pointed out today, he doesn't believe the Liberal leader is being taken seriously.
Angus Taylor has no solutions. He can come up with a whole range of things. Without any costings, they can't be taken seriously. And Angus Taylor isn't taken seriously by his own party.
Well, I don't think Anthony Albanese's been taken seriously either. And if you look at those poll numbers I mentioned, that's probably from Albanese an accurate statement. But you can tell the Prime Minister and his strategy team are now so worried about One Nation themselves that at every chance they will try and claim that One Nation are just a dangerous bunch from the hard right.
Imagine winning a historic election with 94 seats, your best result in over 80 years, and then watching a party that most people wrote off as a political relic start breathing down your neck in the polls. That is exactly the situation the Albanese government finds itself in right now, and it is genuinely one of the more interesting political stories in modern Australian history. Welcome to Federal Analysis. Let's get into it. One Nation has jumped roughly 17% in polling since the May federal election. That is not a gentle drift. That is a sprint. A Roy Morgan Snap poll conducted in mid-May 2026 found One Nation sitting at 32% primary support, ahead of Labor on 28.5%, and almost double the coalition's 16.5%. On a two-party preferred basis, the contest between Labor and One Nation is effectively too close to call, with Labor at 51% and One Nation at 49%. That is not a fringe result. That is a hung parliament scenario in the making. So why is this happening? The short answer is voter frustration, but the longer answer is more interesting. A majority of 59% of Australians disapprove of the job Anthony Albanese is doing as Prime Minister, and 57% disapprove of Treasurer Jim Chalmers' performance. Cost of living pressure, housing affordability, and economic management are consistently ranking as the dominant concerns for voters. Keeping the cost of living low was rated the most important issue by 42% of respondents, far ahead of any other issue. And when people feel the pressure in their household budgets every single week, they start looking for alternatives that sound like something different. Now here is the nuance that is easy to miss. More recent news poll and Resolve polling shows One Nation's surge has softened somewhat, with One Nation at 24% and 22% respectively, while Labor holds a clearer two-party preferred lead over the coalition. So the picture is not uniform across every poll. But the broader trend of One Nation as a genuine electoral force, rather than a protest footnote, is consistent across every major polling house right now. The government is clearly watching this closely. The question is what the response looks like. Do you try to address the underlying voter concerns on cost of living and economic confidence, or do you risk ceding ground by engaging with One Nation's framing on other issues? That is the tightrope, and it is a narrow one. Watch this space, because the numbers are shifting fast. If you want sharp, daily breakdowns of Australian politics without the noise, subscribe to Federal Analysis, and drop a comment below telling us what you think is driving One Nation's rise. We will see you in the next one.